they're all over the place, and
You can help me formulate this question, I think. There is a character who is socially unacceptable because of how scandalous she is. I guess a lot of cultures, in my experience, Argentina, for example, they're in the closet. They're probably a little bit more crazy, but outside they put up a big wall of, and that's what it seems like here. German, exactly. And so there's one character who lets her freak out all the time and everywhere, and for that reason she's looked down on. Did you see that? Is it a very image-oriented place, religious-wise, or is that just in this time? I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Does that help you guys? Is that
religiously speaking, no, not so much. I mean, obviously, for the older women, yeah, it was the church. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church doesn't promotes modesty as well. Conservatism, and so you wouldn't see a lot of those things. You would see much more reservation, but I mean, a couple of generations down, more closer to our day, it's like I said, it's not as important. But yeah, back then I could see that being the case. Someone being outcast and looked down upon because of letting their freak out.
Thank you.
How socially acceptable is it to be openly emotional? Like, like cry in public, scream in public, yell at your neighbor,
yell at your sisters.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, because I know you said they were opinionated.
Yeah, and that I think a lot of the times that comes out in a bold fashion. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see people yelling at each other, yelling at your neighbor, openly sharing your opinion in any way you felt necessary. Yeah, I think
You'd say the same is true for volume?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think that French people are it's very easy for them to correct someone, like their lifestyle, the way they speak. They say, you're doing this wrong. This is how you should do this. Is that the way it is in Quebec?
Well, I can say at least while I was trying to speak the language, it definitely was the case. They didn't hesitate a second to correct me and let me know, nope. Like even with the accent and stuff. Yeah, they won't hesitate. They're not afraid of hurting your feelings. They'd rather be right.
So would you say that they have the qualities that we associate with the French?
A lot
like
of them,
French
yeah.
have a high opinion of themselves and look down on everyone else?
Yeah, it really is. Like the best way I can explain the Quebecois is just sort of like a hickish version of the French. Like they have a lot of the same strong-willed French-icks, really.
One thing that I've been confused about is swearing in general with women who are so religious. Is that just something that swearing isn't really a big deal, or
Vulgarity in general.
yeah, because we say a lot of goddamn, and we're not like we talk about like church and stuff.
We talk about sex a lot too.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what's your question then?
That word is my question. Is that something that's common? Like
Yeah.
being very devout but being vulgar?
Yeah, especially because, I mean, even though those religious swear words I told you about are still cuss words to them, I think it's not, in general, I think they have gotten really comfortable with that because it's probably not quite to the level a lot of our cuss words are. So they say them pretty often.
And then what about drinking? Because we've been confused. We talk about how being in a nightclub is really bad, and yet is it acceptable for us to be drinking? How do they look at drinking?
I don't know.
From an outside perspective, did they drink in front of you often? Or was that more of a family?
Smoke. They're really big smokers.
There's a lot of alcohol being out there.
Really?
There
you go.
Because I guess this would come back to the letting your freak out kind of a thing, where if you're with someone like a missionary in your house, if you're drinking, that would say a lot. You ever saw someone, you sit down, teach a lesson, they're pulling out the wine?
No, just
so they seem
lighten up.
Okay, so smoking,
A lot of smoking.
not drinking.
I didn't see them just drinking.
I don't think in the States we have a reference for a French population unless it would be like in New Orleans or something like that. So I think we're tending to go toward New York, New Jersey, those kinds of personalities. Is there a better reference for us?
As far as someone who just
The class, the
Yes, he has
Quebecois.
some of those qualities of those louder, bold, strong-willed. We just don't know these people. Is there another way for us to think about it so we don't go to New York, New Jersey, get caught in those rhythms or patterns that are not appropriate for this?
I don't know. Maybe I could just tell you some of the things I saw. I mean, a lot of the middle-aged women dye their hair pink and purple. I saw it all the time. Like it's really popular.
Purple and white. Come on, how
Almost.
hard?
Pink with my pink dress.
Almost all the time. I mean, like during the summer, it's just every man goes out on his front lawn and mows his lawn with his Speedo on. That's it.
Why am I not there?
You don't want to be there.
Yeah, and I don't think you're
That's so
thinking
good.
what you're thinking. It's a little different with your image.
Yeah, they compared to. I never had to think about this like this before. Yeah.
How do they fight with each other? Did you ever witness a family having sort of a squabble?
Yeah, it goes back to them being loud and vocal and
Very loud?
yeah, and quick, speak a lot.
Is it it's shameless as well?
Yeah, for sure. No bars, no holdbacks.
Personal space. Do they
It's not that important. No, I mean the guys that will wear Speedos in their front yard and kiss you on the cheek, it's past personal space.
How close is family that isn't immediate? Like, if I was an aunt, would I treat my nieces and nephews like my own children, or would there be a...
It's pretty comparable to the States. It's nothing like, Polynesian culture or anything like that. Maybe a little less so. It's more immediate family. I didn't see a whole lot of emphasis on extended family.
What about the elderly, respecting the elderly, how they treat the elderly? Did you see anything weird or off, or is it? Because, for example,
What
in
happens
this,
in the play?
exactly, there's an elderly woman who is degraded the whole show and pushed around, and she falls out of a chair, and they pretty much laugh at her. And so I'm just wondering if it's just an odd relationship, or if you just saw that once they get old and they can't submit into society and help out, then they're just at the will of the people around them.
Yeah, I mean, old people are funny. There's definitely not like tons of respect for them. They're not held in awe over other people. It's yeah. All the old people I met and talked to were kind of they like to joke around. They were silly people. Like they weren't proper in any way. So I could see something like that happening. I wouldn't. Yeah.
Here there are elder abusive laws to protect the elderly, basically. So is there a lot of elder abuse, or are there laws?
Yeah, there's laws. I don't think there's much elderly abuse.
But in the 60s, I bet there wasn't.
No,
Yeah,
that's very
any
possible.
laws.
Just like here in the States, there's
Yeah.
as far as abuse for anybody, children, elderly. A lot of laws have been made since 40 years ago here, so it's kind of universal.
It doesn't feel far off, though, from here,
No.
our relationship with the elderly. Okay.
I imagine there was and always has been a great deal of elder abuse.
Yeah, and because they don't have a huge respect for the wisdom of the elderly, like some of the Asian cultures have, that plays a role into probably the fact they didn't treat them super well all the time.
Okay.
And on that same token, see, here I go again, not being able to listen. Do old people feel the need to teach the younger generation? 'Cause I kind of feel like that's how we are here. Is that something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
How much skin exposure, modesty-wise,
is it comparable to the U.S.? Is it more so, less so
For women,
for women particularly? Yeah.
before they're sluts or anything
Yeah,
like
like-
that.
Yeah, you also
How much do you show before you're a slut?
But you also have to be late 60s, which is
Yes.
very different from mom.
Yeah, trying to think those age of women. I would say they're a little, as far as vitamins, they're a little freer than we are here in the. You got me thinking in French now.
Oh, I thought that was a medical term.
No, it's a French
I was
word.
like, vitamins.
Clothing.
Oh, you could say boobs. It's okay. But now I understand you were in French. Probably even more crude. Just kidding.
If you were to go and see a play with people who are portraying people on the effect, what do you think some things would be like dead giveaways that they are American and have no idea about anything in fact? What are some huge differences between us and
Big differences. These are hard questions. I think. Generally speaking, the families are a little smaller.
Wait, here or there?
There, compared to here.
Compared to Utah, compared to
Especially compared to Utah, but in general, the United States.
Something like how they act and things like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would say they're generally friendlier. That goes back to kind of the lack of personal space. If you were to put two strangers who were Quebecois together versus two Americans, the two Quebecois would get to know each other a lot quicker and more intimately than two Americans would. They're more lighthearted, obviously. A lot of the times that comes out when you don't have as much ambition. Usually you're a little more fun. It seems like, and so a lot of jokes, a lot of messing around.
A question I have is the picking order of jobs. So here, doctors are respected, and then mechanics are low end. What do you feel the level of respect goes in the Quebecois? If you're a mechanic, are you as respected as a doctor because it's a socialist atmosphere?
Maybe a little more so. Careers aren't put as much of an emphasis on, and especially for medicine, although no one really cares to be a doctor that much. It's not nearly as sought after as here because of the healthcare system. Careers here, a lot of the times, especially the career you work for, is something a lot of people, flaunt or attach themselves as a gold star, but there it's not as important.
So along that line, what about class or social? Upper class, middle class, lower class? Is there quite a distinction there?
Probably even in the 60s, there was the lower classes, all the immigrants, because it's hard not to talk about them because they are probably at this point the majority of Quebec is immigrants. The Quebecois have become a minority at this point, and I'm sure back 40 years ago in the 60s it was still plenty of that, and generally
Where
they're
did they come from? Sorry.
all over. We had missionaries called to speak Chinese, Creole, Spanish, Haitian. What else? There are about 3 other languages because there's just such a high concentration of all those people.
So with these names, though, these people probably had French ancestry, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I can't remember the history of Quebec. Obviously,